Wait, the regular game by itself is 93.49? Bruh. Do I look like I'm made out of money? Is that what I look like? Oh no, I mean I have notes. I have notes about the game. And all of them are gonna sound really salty and finicky. I mean, I just don't think the combat's that interesting. I feel like it's just kind of a button masher. And I don't know if it's gonna like ramp up or whatever, but it just kind of feels like a button masher. And again, I mean, I kind of play Dark Souls like a button masher, but I feel like I played that whole demo and I wasn't even challenged. Like Lies of P, I died 25 times at least. Like I got wrecked. But like this combat just feels like it kind of feels almost automated. You know, and they do lots of things to automate it, which I think made sense when they were still trying to have their cake and eat it too. Where they were still doing a Final Fantasy game where you had like 3 members in your party and you were trying to like use a team. But now that you just have a protagonist, I don't know if so much stuff needs to be automated. Like, I guess it's like summons in Elden Ring. Like, you can kind of just not... Maybe you could just not do some of that stuff, and it would make the game harder. The other thing is, like, I like the story, I like the gritty Final Fantasy, but it just kind of feels like... I don't know. It feels like weeboo Game of Thrones a bit, where they've just kind of gone gritty, and they've thrown in throat slitting and sexiness and this sort of stuff and been like Final Fantasy's all grown up, but it doesn't really like, yeah, I don't know, like, so it's like I'm kind of like after that like sort of last big set piece, there's like some part of me that wants to know where the story's going, but it kind of already felt like on the other hand there were no real twists. Like, you could kind of see everything coming. Like, it was just basically an interactive movie, and the movie was mid. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. Like, I played this demo for 2 hours, and I think actual gameplay was less than half an hour. I think it was pretty much an hour and a half of cutscenes. How is that a demo? Test out watching our game. And like some of the stuff that they were like delivering in the story wasn't necessarily stuff that we had questions about. You know, it feels like there's a lot of talking for not a lot of actual iceberging or information. It felt a little okay. Like, great points. Soundtrack is awesome. The graphics are great. I feel like they've done a great job of doing something that looks realistic but without it being uncanny valley. Like, there's still that sort of Final Fantasy anime sort of like look to it, while still also being like really beautifully done. Music is great again, like, and you can hear the sort of like iconic tracks from past Final Fantasy games in it. And so there's definitely like, you can kind of just like feel like it's, you know, there's stuff in there where it is still trying to pay tribute to people who have been with the series since like the 90s. You know, while still just kind of being an action game with so far a somewhat Mary Sue protagonist. You don't need to justify the purchase. You don't need to justify it. Like, that's my way of saying it's like, it's a like so far it's a B plus or an A minus, but it's not an A plus, and it's hard to justify the $93 price tag for something that's not an A plus. Like it might be a game that I wait to come on sale. I don't know if I need to play this release day. Like I get it. I get Final Fantasy had to like evolve or die. You know, like they couldn't keep doing turn-based like that kind of. Sorry about that. Like every time my headset gets unplugged accidentally from my controller and then gets plugged back in, it changes the mic. I mean, yeah, all I was saying is like the need for Final Fantasy to change has been apparent since it got onto the PS2 in like when Final Fantasy X came out, and the fact that they still haven't quite figured it out like 20 years later is a little alarming to me, but I didn't play 15 and I haven't played the 7 remake, so I don't, you know, like I don't know. But the sort of I don't know, that's like what I liked as kids is that it was like it was a strategy game. It was a turn-based strategy game, and that's what I really enjoyed. And obviously, like that era ended with 10, I'm pretty sure. And since then, like especially since 13, and like when they went online, like they were trying to essentially make it more of an action RPG, and they've done that, but I just don't know, like again, after playing a whole bunch of Dark Souls, out of all the type of like action medieval fantasy action RPGs, like it's definitely there with the graphics and the art and the music and all of that stuff, but I don't know if it's quite there with the gameplay yet. And again, as I said, like 20 years on from the PS2, they still haven't really figured it out. I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I have lots of problems with Dark Souls too. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like for 2 hours I was just kind of bored. And maybe that's like, and maybe that's just it. Like maybe once you get like, this is probably going to be a big game, like 100-hour game. And it's just like, if it turns out that 75 of those 100 hours are just cutscenes, I'm going to jump out my window. Like it's not worth $1 an hour of cutscene. I don't know whether to like switch over and boot up some Dark Souls now, or whether to just like stew in my bemused disappointment for the rest of the evening and put my feet up. I'm glad Matt isn't here to watch me assassinate this game. I don't know, maybe I've also just gotten like, I don't know, maybe I just like I've gotten to this point in my life too where like when I sit down and play video games, I want to play video games, I don't want to watch them. And Dark Souls is really good for that, but it also comes at a cost. But yeah, anyways, man, thanks for coming. I appreciate you stopping in and catching the rant. Hey. Okay, see you, man.